I didn't take anything.
Let me see your hands. Don't move from there.
I'm just trying to buy something.
Step back for me, please. Keep your hands visible.
Before the chaos, before the shouting, before the cuffs flashed under the bright store lights, Jamal Price was just another teenager trying to make someone he loved smile. At 17, Jamal carried more responsibility than most his age. An honors student, a quiet kid with steady grades, and a regular volunteer at the East Haven Senior Center. He was known for helping elderly patients walk to their therapy rooms or reading aloud to those whose eyesight had faded. Everyone who met him said the same thing: he is going to make a great nurse one day. And that was his dream, becoming a licensed practical nurse. Then a registered one, maybe even a trauma specialist one day. He talked about it constantly, especially with his mother, Jamal Price, who worked 2 jobs, a morning shift at a bakery and nights cleaning offices downtown. She was the reason Jamal works so hard. She pushed him gently, loved him fiercely, and reminded him every night to keep his heart good. That morning had been like any other: warm toast on the table, his 8-year-old sister Nia humming while braiding her doll's hair, the smell of his mother's coffee drifting through their small apartment. Jamal grabbed his backpack, ruffled Nia's braids, and kissed his mother's cheek before sprinting out the door to catch the school bus. But today was different in one quiet, personal way. He had exactly $42 saved in an envelope tucked deep in his wallet. It was not much, but to him, it was everything. He had been saving for a month, doing odd jobs, helping neighbors, skipping cafeteria snacks to buy his mother a simple silver necklace for her upcoming birthday. The boutique store he visited after school was small but cozy, the kind of place with soft acoustic music playing and warm golden lights hanging low from the ceiling. A peaceful, slow afternoon, only a handful of customers browsing, but behind the counter stood Harold Benton, the owner, a man known around the neighborhood for keeping a close eye on anyone young who walked in, closer still when they were young and black. His posture was stiff, eyes watchful, almost hungry for trouble. Outside, the autumn air was calm, the street quiet, the sky dull and gray. Inside, everything still felt normal. No one knew the storm that was quietly building second by second, suspicion by suspicion waiting to explode. When Jamal stepped into the boutique, the soft bell above the door chimed gently. Warm yellow lights glowed overhead, reflecting off glass cases filled with jewelry that sparkled like captured stars. He walked carefully, conscious of his school scrubs and backpack, making sure not to brush against anything. He approached the counter with a hopeful smile. "Excuse me, sir, can I see the silver pendant?" The store owner, Harold Benton, turned. His eyes narrowed the moment they landed on Jamal. There was no warmth in his expression, just a stiff, immediate tension. "Which one?" he asked, voice clipped. "That one," Jamal said, pointing to the teardrop-shaped pendant with a small heart in the center. "The one in the middle." Harold did not move for several seconds. He studied Jamal from head to toe, lingering just a little too long on his scrubs and his backpack. Finally he unlocked the case, lifted the pendant with 2 fingers, and placed it on the counter. "You browsing or buying?" he said, the words sharp enough to sting. "Buying," Jamal replied quietly. "It is for my mom's birthday." Harold exhaled through his nose, unimpressed. "We will see." Jamal leaned forward slightly to admire the pendant, and at that exact moment, a sensor near the door emitted a single sharp beep. He had not touched anything. He had not moved an inch. Harold's head snapped toward the sound, then back to Jamal. "You set off my sensor," he said. "I did not touch anything," Jamal whispered, confused. Harold did not bother answering. He simply scooped the pendant off the counter, locked it back in the case, and stared at Jamal with suspicion thick enough to choke the air. "Could I at least hold it?" Jamal asked. "I do not let everyone handle merchandise," Harold said coldly. "Some things are not meant for certain folks." Jamal's heart sank. He understood exactly what that meant. He stepped away from the counter, trying not to let the comment shake him. He moved to another aisle, looking at some bracelets, keeping his hands visible and movements slow. But as he walked, he realized with a sinking feeling that Harold was following him. Every aisle, every shelf, every step. Soft music played overhead, but it no longer made the space feel peaceful. It felt like a countdown. A tightness in the air grew heavier. A couple browsing scarves noticed the owner tailing him. One whispered, "Why is he following that kid like that?" Jamal pretended not to hear. He checked a bracelet, looked at a case, and stepped slightly toward the entrance to glance at a mirror. Beep. The sensor chirped again. Harold moved in front of him instantly, blocking the way with his arm. "You do not belong here," he barked, loud enough for half the store to hear. Put it back. Jamal froze. Put what back? You know what? Harold shouted. I saw you hovering near the case. I heard the alarm. I did not take anything, Jamal whispered, voice cracking with fear. Do not lie to me, Harold said, and something ugly twisted across his face. Jamal took a step back, hands raised. Sir, please, I have not touched anything. I swear no. Harold extended his arm, blocking the door fully. You are not going anywhere until the police arrive. Jamal felt his stomach drop. The police, he breathed. Harold grabbed the phone off the counter and spoke loudly, making sure everyone could hear. Yes, this is Benton's boutique. I have a shoplifter here. Possible theft. Aggressive, refusing to comply. Every word was a lie, a dangerous embellishment that grew bigger with each syllable. A woman near the scarves whispered, he has not done anything. He has been polite this whole time. But Harold was not listening to anyone except the story he was building in his head. Empty your pockets, he ordered. Now. Before Jamal could respond, the store door swung open with force. Officer Mark Ridley marched inside, tall, broad, jaw tight. His hand was already resting on his holster. That is him, Harold shouted, pointing directly at Jamal. He tried to take jewelry. Ridley did not ask for details. He did not look for context. His eyes locked onto Jamal as though the conclusion had already been made. You, he snapped, back up and keep your hands where I can see them. Jamal obeyed instantly, raising his trembling hands. Officer, sir, please. Do not talk, Ridley said. Just do as I say. He walked in circles around Jamal, inspecting him like he was a threat. Turn around. Empty your pockets. Jamal's hands shook as he reached slowly, very slowly into his pockets. He placed everything on the counter, phone, wallet, lip balm, his bus pass, and nothing else. I told you, Jamal whispered, voice cracking. A woman lifted her phone and started recording. Then a teenager, then another customer. Within seconds, half the store had their cameras pointed at the unfolding scene. Ridley stiffened at the sight of the phones, but instead of calming down, he grew harsher. Do not move, he barked, stepping closer as if Jamal was suddenly a threat. Jamal's pulse hammered in his chest. His palms were sweaty. His knees trembled. His mother's words echoed in his mind. Do not give them a reason, baby. Stay calm. He clenched his jaw, forcing himself not to cry, not to panic, not to breathe too fast. Ridley grabbed his arm. Jamal winced. Please, he whispered. That hurts. Stop resisting, Ridley snapped. Gasps broke through the crowd. He is not resisting, someone said loudly. He has not moved. Jamal's voice was barely audible. I am cooperating, I promise. Ridley tightened his grip anyway. Harold crossed his arms. Smug. There, I knew the second he walked in he was troubled. Jamal closed his eyes for a moment. He felt small, humiliated, trapped inside a story he did not write. But even in that crushing fear, something in him held a quiet, trembling dignity that refused to disappear. He stood there, hands shaking, breath shallow, surrounded by strangers recording and judging and whispering. Ridley reached for his cuffs. The store fell silent, a thick, suffocating silence that pressed against the walls. Phones were up, hearts were racing. Harold watched eagerly. Ridley prepared to close the cuffs. Jamal prayed not to be hurt. The storm was not coming anymore. It was here. The cuffs were halfway out of Officer Ridley's hand when the boutique door opened again. A gust of cool air slipped inside along with a woman wearing blue scrubs, her ID badge swinging from her lanyard. She looked tired, like she had just come from a long shift. But the moment her eyes landed on Jamal, something in her expression lit with recognition. Jamal, she said sharply. Ridley paused. Jamal turned, relief flooding his face. Nurse Jennings, she stepped forward, her tone suddenly fierce. What on earth is happening here? Harold scoffed. We caught your little friend shoplifting. She stared at Harold like he had grown two heads. That boy takes care of my patients every Saturday morning, she said, voice rising. He helps them walk. He reads to them. He would not steal a penny off the ground, let alone jewelry. Her words sliced through the tension like a blade. A few customers murmured. Someone gasped. Jamal's breath wavered as if he could not believe someone finally stepped in for him. Ridley frowned. Madam, I need you to stand back. But she did not move. No, you are manhandling a teenager who has done nothing wrong. A man standing near the counter raised his hand, phone still recording. Officer, he said, I have got footage. He did not touch the display case. The owner was following him the whole time. Harold's face tightened. People like him always try something. The room erupted. Voices shot back instantly. Do not say that. That is racist as hell. Let the kid go. You are profiling him. Phones lifted higher. More cameras. More eyes. The atmosphere crackled with a new kind of energy, not fear this time. Pressure, public pressure. Ridley's grip on Jamal's arm loosened just a fraction. Nurse Carla Jennings crossed her arms. You need to check the security footage. This is wrong, officer. Her steady voice carried the kind of moral authority that made people pay attention. Ridley shifted uncomfortably. For the first time, uncertainty crept across his hardened expression. He glanced at the camera bubbles mounted on the ceiling. Is there footage? He asked. Harold hesitated. Well, yes, but play it, Nurse Jennings demanded. A crowd of customers followed as Harold stomped toward the back office. Ridley kept a hold on Jamal, but lighter now, as if holding onto a truth that was slipping through his fingers. Inside the cramped office, Harold clicked through the system and pulled up the feed. The footage played in grainy colors but clear enough. There was Jamal walking in, looking at the pendant, keeping his hands to himself, not touching the case, not pocketing anything, just browsing. The sensor beeps played faintly in the audio both times with Jamal nowhere near the alarm strips. Nothing. Absolutely nothing resembling theft. Silence filled the room. A thick, heavy silence that exposed every lie Harold had told. One customer stepped forward. So where is the part where he stole something? They asked flatly. Harold's face flushed, but he forced out a stubborn grunt. Video does not show everything, Carla scoffed. It shows enough. Ridley exhaled slowly, tension draining from his shoulders. His jaw clenched not out of anger at Jamal, but at the situation unraveling in front of him. Outside the office, a murmur rippled through the store as customers whispered, unbelievable, they were about to arrest him. That poor kid. This is straight-up profiling. Phones continued to film. Comments began popping up on screen as people streamed live. That kid did not do anything. Owner is racist. Officer grabbed him for no reason. Share this now. The clip spread fast, seconds, not minutes. The kind of viral ignition that starts with a spark but becomes a fire before anyone can control it. Ridley looked at Jamal. Really looked at him for the first time. Fear, humiliation, shaking hands. A kid who had been trying to buy a birthday gift. Ridley swallowed hard. His voice dropped. All right, wait here. He stepped aside, radio already in his hand. Outside, the crowd grew louder, emboldened by the truth the cameras revealed. Let him go. This is discrimination. He did not do a thing. Why is he still being held? Harold covered his frustration with another lie. People like him finish that sentence, Nurse Jennings said, her voice dangerously calm. Harold shut his mouth. The front door burst open again, this time not a single officer, but a commanding figure in a dark patrol jacket. Lieutenant Raymond Cole. He walked in with urgency, looking tense and alert. I saw the clip, he said before anyone even greeted him. He glanced from Ridley to Harold to the trembling teenager still standing by the counter. What is going on here? Jamal's breath hitched. This was not just a new officer. This was someone who had already seen the truth. Someone ready to change everything. Lieutenant Raymond Cole did not waste time. The moment he stepped inside, he took in every detail, the raised phones, the tension in the air, the teenager standing frozen with an officer's hand still near his wrist. Show me the footage, he said, voice low but firm. Harold hesitated. Lieutenant, I already told them. Show me, Cole repeated, sharper this time. Harold swallowed hard and walked stiffly toward the office. The crowd followed, their whispers trailing behind like smoke. Ridley kept his distance now, his shoulders tight, his confidence visibly thinning. Jamal moved slowly with him, his breathing uneven but controlled, each inhale a battle, each exhale a silent prayer. Inside the office, the footage played again. Jamal entering politely, browsing quietly, hands visible. No grabbing, no pocketing, just looking. The beep sounded faint and meaningless. The room stayed cold and silent. Only Jamal's shaky breaths seemed alive. Lieutenant Cole stared at the screen, jaw tightening. His authority shifted from neutral to furious in a single heartbeat. He replayed the part where Harold accused Jamal, rewound to the moment Ridley grabbed him. His face grew darker with every second. When the video ended, he turned slowly, eyes landing first on Harold Benton. You said he was aggressive, Cole said quietly. Harold stiffened. He was acting suspicious. I heard the alarm that sensor beeps when the wind blows too hard, Cole snapped. And you know that. Harold opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His face reddened under the weight of the truth. Cole turned to Ridley next. You escalated without probable cause. Ridley shifted. Sir, the owner lied. Cole cut in. And you did not bother verifying a single detail. A murmur of agreement rose from customers. That is right, he did not resist at all. You grabbed him for nothing. This is messed up. Phones remained lifted. capturing everything: the confrontation, the accountability, the humbling of those who acted without thought. Jamal stood still, chest rising and falling in quick, shaky breaths. He tried to steady himself, but the humiliation lingered like a bruise beneath the skin. The room felt too small, too loud, too bright. He clenched his jaw, trying not to crumble in front of all these strangers. Lieutenant Cole finally stepped closer to him. "Son," he said gently, "you are not in any trouble." A sharp contrast from the harshness he had heard all afternoon. Jamal's eyes flickered with a kind of exhausted disbelief. Cole turned to Ridley. "Uncuff him." Ridley hesitated for half a second, a moment that revealed everything about his pride, but then he obeyed, pulling his hands back instead of reaching forward. The cuffs never fully closed on Jamal, but the message was clear. He was no suspect. Not anymore. Not ever. "Take statements from the witnesses," Cole ordered, "and make sure they include everything from the accusation to the physical handling." Ridley swallowed, the humiliation visible in every stiff movement as he stepped away to begin interviewing customers who glared at him with open disapproval. Harold tried to slip behind the counter, but the crowd was not ready to let him disappear. "Apologize. Say something. You put that boy through hell." Harold's jaw clenched. His pride trembled more than his voice. "I may have overreacted," he muttered. "That is not an apology," someone shot back, but he could not bring himself to say the real thing. Lieutenant Cole let the silence of judgment do its work. Finally, he turned back to Jamal. "You are free to go," he said softly. "And for what it is worth, I am sorry you were treated like this." The room quieted for a beat. Jamal nodded, still processing everything, still trying to keep himself from shaking apart. His eyes drifted toward the jewelry case, the original reason he walked into the store. Slowly, almost timidly, he stepped forward, reached inside his pocket, and pulled out the folded envelope of savings he had carried for weeks. He gently picked up the silver necklace, the one he wanted for his mother. In that small, quiet moment, he did not say a word. He did not need to. Truth had finally spoken for him. The video spread faster than anyone in that boutique could have imagined. By the time Jamal reached home that evening, his phone was buzzing nonstop. Friends were messaging, classmates were tagging him, even people he had never spoken to were sending links. The clip 37 seconds of fear, humiliation, and truth was everywhere. A shaky recording of Harold shouting, "You do not belong here." Officer Ridley grabbing Jamal's arm, customers yelling, "He did not steal anything." Nurse Jennings stepping in with fierce clarity. Underneath, comment after comment poured in. "This is racial profiling. Plain and simple. That kid stayed so calm. Shut this store down. Share this until something changes." Within hours, news outlets had picked it up. Mock headlines flashed across social media. "Teen wrongly accused in boutique incident sparks outrage. Community demands accountability." After viral racial profiling, video student volunteer detained without cause. Officer under fire. The next morning, the neighborhood felt different, charged, alive, angry. Outside Benton's boutique, people gathered with signs. "Justice for Jamal. Stop racial profiling. Protect our kids." The store stayed open, but customers walked past without stepping inside. Some glared through the window with disgust. Others recorded the empty aisles. A boycott formed organically. No official leader, no organization, just a collective decision. Harold Benton was not welcome. At school, Jamal walked through the hallways and felt something he had not expected. Support. Hands on his shoulder. "You okay, man? We saw the video. We are with you." Teachers treated him with extra softness. One counselor pulled him aside to tell him he was brave for staying calm. Even students he barely knew came up to him. And at church that Sunday, the pastor paused mid-sermon to acknowledge him. "We lift up young Jamal," he said gently, "for showing restraint and dignity in the face of injustice." The congregation murmured amen. For the first time since the incident, Jamal's eyes watered, not from fear this time, but from feeling seen. Civil rights lawyers began contacting his mother, Danielle. They left voicemails, emails, cards slipped under the apartment door. Everyone had the same message: "You have a strong case. Let us help you." At their dining table, Danielle sat with Jamal and listened carefully as a young attorney named Maya Green explained their options. "Your son endured humiliation," she said calmly. "Physical mishandling, public accusation, emotional trauma, and all without cause. You can file a suit for racial profiling, false accusation, and emotional distress." Danielle looked at Jamal. "This is your choice," she whispered. Jamal hesitated. His stomach tightened. "I do not want revenge," he said quietly. I do not want anyone else to go through that." That was enough. The lawsuit was filed. and the community's response only grew. Officer Mark Ridley was placed on immediate suspension pending investigation. His name appeared in local articles, often next to harsh public comments questioning his judgment. The police department received calls, hundreds of them. Parents, local leaders, activists. What is being done? Why was this allowed to happen? What reforms are coming? Pressure mounted fast. Meanwhile, Harold Benton faced consequences of his own. Reviews for his store plummeted overnight. One-star ratings filled every platform. Racial profiling, avoid at all costs. Harold harassed a child. This store has no respect for black youth. The financial impact hit quickly. Employees quit. The supplier pulled out. The boutique sat nearly empty all week. And then the protests arrived, small at first, then bigger, louder, unignored. Accountability now. Racism will not be tolerated. Do better, Harold. Some people marched. Others simply stood silently with signs. But every single one of them made clear the community was not letting this go. The lawsuit moved faster than expected because the evidence was overwhelming. The footage, the witness statements, the officer's report contradicted by video, the store owner's lies exposed by security footage. Harold's lawyers tried to push back at first, but even they knew their case was collapsing. Eventually, Harold agreed to a settlement, a monetary payment to Jamal's family, a formal public apology, mandatory bias training, a statement admitting misconduct. The apology took place outside the boutique. Cameras were present. Neighbors watched. Protesters stood with folded arms. Harold stepped up to the microphone, stiff and uncomfortable. "I want to apologize to Jamal Price," he forced out. "My assumptions were wrong. My actions were inappropriate, and I am committed to learning from this." No one clapped, but Jamal nodded once, quietly accepting, not forgiving. Officer Ridley also faced consequences. After review, he was ordered to undergo mandatory retraining on use of force, bias recognition, and de-escalation. He remained suspended during the process. The department issued a public statement acknowledging the incident and announcing a new anti-bias policy. It included requirements for body cameras during all civilian encounters, mandatory review of security footage before making arrests in retail disputes, improved officer training on implicit bias. It was not perfect. It was not enough to erase what happened, but it was movement. It was change. And some of it existed because Jamal had stayed calm when the world expected him to break. When the settlement money finally arrived, Jamal knew exactly what he wanted to do with it. He kept very little for himself, just enough for college applications and a laptop for school. The rest he used to start something meaningful. The Price Promise Scholarship Fund, a small scholarship for underrepresented teens who wanted to pursue healthcare careers, kids like him. His mother cried when he told her, "You took pain and made it into something good," she whispered. "Your heart is stronger than what they tried to do to you." One evening, a quiet one, without cameras or crowds or noise, Jamal walked into the living room with a small gift bag in his hands. "Mom," he said shyly. She looked up from the couch. "Yes, baby." He handed her the bag. Inside, wrapped carefully in tissue paper, was the silver heart pendant, the one he had picked out the day everything went wrong. Danielle pressed a hand to her mouth. Tears pooled instantly. "Oh, Jamal," she whispered, voice breaking. "You still got it." He smiled softly. "I wanted you to have something beautiful, even if the day was not." She hugged him tighter than ever, and he let the weight of everything lift off his shoulders for the first time in weeks. He did not cry, but he felt lighter, stronger, dignified, because despite everything, every lie, every shout, every moment of fear, he had stayed true to who he was. And in the end, truth had won. Jamal's story reminds us of something deeper than a single moment in a boutique. It exposes how quickly a quiet afternoon can turn into fear, how easily an assumption can grow into an accusation, and how dangerously fast prejudice can shape the story before truth ever gets a chance to speak. Jamal did not shout. He did not fight. He did not let anger define him. He chose dignity. He chose restraint. And because of that, because he held on to who he was, the truth rose louder than every lie spoken about him. Sometimes the strongest justice is not revenge. It is truth that speaks louder than lies. What happened to Jamal did not just come from one bad decision. It came from a belief, quiet, poisonous, that a young black teen must be guilty before proven innocent. And that belief could have destroyed him if not for witnesses, video evidence, and one nurse who refused to stay silent. Stories like his remind us that a single assumption can shatter a life. A single moment of bias can bend the world toward injustice. And a single voice, here's mine, anyone's, can help bend it back. So now I ask you, what would you have done in Jamal's place? Do you believe the officer should have been fired? Have you ever witnessed racial profiling yourself? Tell your story below. Your voice matters. And if this story moved you, subscribe because stories like this must be told.